do families fare in the Foreign Service?
I see many families, and of course having come from a Foreign Service family myself, I'm well aware with the issues that arise, whether it's education, special education needs, medical needs, and then the fact that some children adapt much better, find it easier to move from place to place. And I see that as an issue that young Foreign Service officers, whatever their family composition, face today. Their expectations about what the life of the Foreign Service is able to deliver for their family, employment for spouses, education or medical needs. Very often if people choose to resign from the Foreign Service in the first 5 to 10 years of their career, it's frequently because of family reasons.
But are there benefits?
Well, for children, the educational opportunities can often be quite rich. They may not have all of the extracurricular activities or opportunities that you would in attending middle school or high school in the United States, but the opportunity to travel, to experience the countries in which you live, to learn the languages, those can be very enriching. In the case of my own children, I have 5 children. They have all attended schools in the countries in which we've lived. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Amman, Jordan, and then London, because we spent 4 years in London. In each case, each one of them has, I think, different memories, but reasons they would like to go back to all of those places.
Mr. Ambassador, your devotion to your country and your service to your country is impressive. Are there any sacrifices or any trouble spots that any bumps that you've encountered along the way that it might be well to share in order to let students know that things are not always smooth and easy?
Well, I have felt at times that perhaps some of the burden of my career has been borne disproportionately by either my children or my wife. I'm not sure they would say that, but I've certainly looked at that and felt that at times. I'm aware of opportunities that they've missed out on, a chance to grow up in one place where they really feel like they have lasting relationships. So there's a compromise. So I've felt sometimes in my own mind that there are perhaps sacrifices that my wife or children have been called upon to make that they weren't asked to make, but they were required to offer because of the career I've chosen. I've had children sometimes where special education needs means that we have had to make compromises, find ways in which getting extra tutoring or finding ways in which they can keep up with the education requirements. At the end of the day, though, I think sometimes as parents, and I remind myself that when I look back on my own experience of growing up as a Foreign Service dependent, I wouldn't have traded that for anything, even though there were things that I was missing out on.
Foreign Service gives you quite a bit of support, though, don't they?
Yes, the State Department recognizes that they can't ask people to follow this lifestyle without making very generous allowances available for educational needs of children, for medical needs of family members, providing as much stability and opportunity to travel back to the United States on home leave, on R&R trips if you're serving in hardship posts. In the case where, and increasingly in the Foreign Service today, there are a number of posts that are unaccompanied, and with the huge staffing demands of our embassies in Baghdad and Kabul, that virtually every officer is expected at some point now in their career to take an assignment unaccompanied. And those choices, the Foreign Service offers a range of options for your family, of either remaining in the post in which you're serving before you go to, so that they don't have to leave school and the house that they're living in, or of transferring back to the United States and the various allowances that help to maintain a separate household so that you can maintain your family in a home leave address or somewhere in the Washington, D.C. area.
Mr. Ambassador, at what point, or at what point have you had to make decisions between 2 different posts or 2 different types of assignments, or even within the post, because of your family? Why did you make those choices, or what are some specific examples of that led you to go one way rather than another?
Well, every career will follow a different path, and to a certain extent you're expected to manage your own career and make your choices and then be very proactive in looking for the opportunities for the type of assignments that will give you the experience that you want. In my case, part of the reason, if you look at my career trajectory, while it's not unusual for somebody, particularly with Arabic background, to spend the majority of their career overseas, my assignments have been predominantly in the Gulf countries. I've served twice in Riyadh, twice in Kuwait. This will be a third assignment in Kuwait, and in Qatar. Part of the reason I've been willing to do that, and those are regarded as hardship assignments, is in all of those cases I've been able to go to those posts knowing that there are local units of the LDS Church that my family can attend and that we can participate with, and that there's fairly good schooling because of the economic standard of those countries and because of the large number of expatriates. The schools in Riyadh, in Kuwait, and Doha are quite good for American dependents. So in those cases I chose specifically to specialize in that area and spend a great deal of my career in those countries because of the quality of life issues that were afforded to my family.
Has your faith been an asset or sometimes a drawback to your career?
Well, I've never felt its drawback.
Entertainment, for example?
Well, that's an interesting question. Of course, there are many LDS Foreign Service officers. I think my father was probably the first LDS Foreign Service officer, and for many years was the only one. And he probably could speak about instances where supervisors or others felt that his the fact that he did not drink or socialize in the way that other people did was a drawback. I've never encountered that. And I've certainly felt, serving in the Middle East, that often if people with whom I deal regularly know that, for example, I don't accept tea or coffee when we go to meetings, and the reason is because of religious beliefs, they understand that. Muslims understand that, and they accept it and respect it. So I've never found that's a drawback. If anything, I think that probably many people encountering that tend to respect it or see in me that I have some common values that they have themselves. I have never felt that the fact that I don't drink or that I'm an active member of the LDS Church has been a drawback in my career.
Would there be any advice that you could quickly give to families that are in that situation, a husband or wife who is in this foreign service or wants to get into the service, and what they should do with their children? Well,
I think many young LDS students graduating from BYU perhaps have lived overseas during a mission. They have become very interested in the country overseas in which they have lived, they've learned the language, they desire to go back. They maybe have seen expatriate workers either with military, embassy, private companies, and they see that that can be a very attractive lifestyle. But it's a lifestyle, and particularly with the Foreign Service, where you're subject to the discipline of the service. You don't choose when you go and where you go. That's chosen by somebody else. You have some say in the matter, but essentially you are subject to a discipline that requires, if the service says, we need you to go to Iraq and leave your family behind. We need you to go to Yemen, where your family perhaps won't have schooling or medical opportunities that are up to the standards you expect. You're expected to sometimes bite down and make compromises and choices. And it's difficult if those choices, you feel that because of your career, you're sacrificing things for your spouse or your children. Those are hard choices. And the Foreign Service is not a career in which you have a brief period in which you serve overseas. You're expected generally to be worldwide available throughout the course of a full career. That means if you're going to plan on a 25, 30, 35-year career, you will be moving every 3 to 4 years into a new place, setting up new home, new roots, new friendships. And of course, that is something you have to be very committed to if you intend to do that well.
Why? Why do you go through all these struggles and all these hardships that other people go through? What is it for you and your family? What makes it worth it?
I think I'd probably answer the same way many Foreign Services officers answer that question. There is an element that you do it that arises out of the love for what you're doing. It is because of the country you're representing, the opportunity you have to represent the United States, its values, its government abroad. It's a tremendous privilege, and I think most Foreign Service officers would tell you that that's one of the top reasons that they choose the career and make the sacrifices. It is a job that I think leaves you always feeling that you're doing something worthwhile. And that's a great thing to have, I think.